Today we're going to add a light Rama light linker to a light Rama 16 channel controller in a control box. First off, I just want to say thanks to Dan and everyone at Light Rama for creating such great products to give us all a Christmas spirit and get us going. So I'm using a cable guard controller box. And don't get me wrong, I really love the Light Rama controller boxes which come with our 16 channel, but I went cheap on one of the Mad Grab sales and I ended up with a bunch of these 16 channel controller boards. So I figured I would just buy some controller boxes later, and I wanted to get some that were big enough where I could put two 16 channel controllers in. Well, these are from DIY Express, and they are 6 controller boxes for about $100. So not a bad deal, but I couldn't fit two 16 channel controllers in safely to where I liked it. I could get them in there, but I wasn't happy with the way they were. So I also have a bunch of light linkers that I'm going to use this year. Instead of running Cat 5 all over my yard, I was going to go the light linker route. What you see me doing now is from a regular pre-made 16 channel controller box, you get 2 power cords. I'm using LEDs, so I only use 1 power cord, and then I use a jumper. So I take that power cord and I cut it down to where it's about 2 feet long, and I put my own connections on the end. You'll see where I use the wire that I've cut off to make my jumper and other things, and then have some extra wire afterwards. So I'm taking my power cable now and I'm running it into the controller box and sticking it up out of the way. And now I have some cable holders and some stainless steel screws, and I'm going to hook these cable holders onto my cable and onto the controller box itself. This is all well and good and everything, but as you're going to see, I've completely messed up this controller box. This is the first one that I assembled, and I tried to get 2 boards in it. So my 16 channel board is actually backwards in the box. So I really want the power to be in the other direction. And so I'm just right now putting in my neutral, putting in the screws. I find screws that I forgot to put in when I was playing around trying to figure out what I was going to do. But it all just added time. But still, all said and done, it's only going to take you about 20 minutes to build out one of these boxes and put your light linker in it. So here comes the moment of truth. I'm going to put on the last little cable holder. And once I get that cable holder in place and I go to hook up my white and black wire to the 16 channel controller board is when I realized my mistake. So here we go, folks. Ready? 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, boy.
Yeah, I messed that one up a little bit. But it's pretty quick to take out the screws and flip this board around. I mean, we all make mistakes in this hobby, right? That's why it's our hobby and not our job. So moving right along, you see how quick you can put a board into this cable guard box. And these boxes are very big. They're almost too big. And I guess it's great for those of you who are using RGBs because you're able to get not only the RGB controller, but you can get your power supply in here as well, and with plenty of room left over. Alright, awesome. So I got my wires ready to go now. So I use the jumper. I use one power wire and a jumper. And so I use the hot wire in, and then I run my jumper across over to the other hot wire in from the jumper. And I create a white jumper that goes on two of the 16s that are right in the middle. If you look down at your controller board, you'll see I guess it's 2 blocks of 18 or something like that. 16, 18, yeah. But in the middle, I just plug into the two that are at the very center and towards that little transformer in the middle of the controller board. So you see where I'm plugging that in, and then I just loop it down and I plug it into the little male that's in the other box right across from it. So now I make my black jumper. Same thing, I'm just using female plugs. And these are, I buy these in bulk, these female plugs, because this is the same thing that I use with my SPT wire. Instead of running the big cables out the bottom of my controller box with plugs on it, I just run my SPT up into my controller box and plug it directly into the board, and then from the board I run it out to whatever display item it might be out there. I kind of think it makes the controller box look a little bit cleaner when you're hiding it, if you don't have a whole bunch of bulky cables hanging out. It is more of a pain in the butt to build the controller on the fly though. But as you see, I go from the jumper across into the hot. That way when it's hot, it's got a fuse on both sides. So here's my light linker. So I'm going to take my hacksaw and I'm going to cut this light linker. I'm going to cut off about, I don't know, maybe 60% of the side. When you're making your cut, make sure that you make your cut far enough down that you're not hacking into the RJ45 jack that's inside the light linker. That could be really bad. So fast forward a little bit, I'm through the bottom part of the light linker, and there's actually notches inside the box, and when you get ready to cut yours, if you decide to do this, you'll see what I'm talking about. That'll give you a nice clean cut if you just follow the line of the notch that's inside this little light linker black case. So there you go. I've completely destroyed my light linker box as we know it, and that's never going to be used again. So now I want to punch a hole into the side of my controller box. So I use a smaller drill bit to get it started. Yeah, this is kind of small. It's probably about 3/8. And I get my hole started, and then I'm going to change out and I'm going to go to a 1/2 inch drill bit. So with the 1/2 inch drill bit, it gives me a hole that's just about the same size as the very top of the light linker antenna. So I stick it in, it fits great. So now I'm going to use some 2-part epoxy. This stuff is just like JB Weld, and you see how I do it. I'm going to do 2 even lines. I'm going to do an even line of the black, and I'm going to do an even line of the white. I used to use plastic weld or just a clear epoxy, and I found this stuff in my Walmart store, and like I said, it's like JB Weld, but it's so much stronger than like a regular plastic. The downside with the clear stuff is after a few years that clear stuff kind of gets brittle and it breaks away, and then you're stuck with the broken item again. What I found with this stuff is once you do it, it's there for good. It's there permanently. So on my light linker, I'm going to scuff the plastic up a little bit because that's going to allow this epoxy to kind of get into those scratches and glue it in just a little bit better. And then I'm going to take some black RVT silicone, and this is going to make my hole that I just cut in the box. It's going to seal that up, and it's also going to bond my light linker to the side of the controller box. So I just take a fingerful and I wipe it around that little hole. You can cover the hole, whatever. You just want to make sure that when you push that antenna through, that you're pushing the black silicone through with it. That way it seals permanently. You can use any kind of silicone you want, but in my history, my knowledge is the black is probably the best you can possibly get. Sure, it costs 2-3 times as much, but there's a reason for that. So I'm taking my 2-part epoxy and I'm wiping it all over my controller, and this stuff, as it sets up, it gets kind of runny. It takes about 24 hours for it to harden completely, but for what we're doing here, it's going to be plenty firm enough along with that black RVT, so we can use it without ripping this antenna off the controller. Because I didn't take any breaks. As you watch this video, I didn't take any breaks from start to finish. It's what you see. I want to say originally it took me like 23 minutes to build this, and I got the video down to around 17 seconds or something like that, or 17 minutes. So we're wiping off any of the black RVT that has come through, because kind of keep your controller box looking pretty, and we want to wipe it off the antenna. So there's our antenna mounted on the side. Now once our light linker is in place, now we got to get communication from our light linker over to our controller. So you're going to need an RJ45 connector, testers, crimpers, and a small pair of pliers. Sure, for a couple dollars you could probably get a 1-foot Cat5 cable, but I've been running data cable for I don't know, maybe the last 20 years of my life, so I'm pretty good at it. You might need some practice to be able to pull this off as quickly as I did, but like I said, I can't tell you how many thousands and thousands of patch cables I've made over the years. I once worked at a hospital system where every system in the hardware in the closet was patched to a switch using a 25-foot patch cable, and I slowly changed them all out to 1 and 2 foot cables, and it looked a lot better when I was done. So I've done this a lot. If you care what pattern the wires are in, you look at the other end and you match it up. On this one, we're doing orange, white, orange, green, white, blue, blue, white, green, brown, white, and then brown. We want to flip our RJ45 connector to where the flat side is up so we can see our wires. We want to check the end and make sure that there's copper at the end, and then we just take our crimp tool and crimp them all down. You do want to make sure that all the insulation on the outside gets into your crimp so it holds everything in place and makes it look good. So we're all green and my battery's low. Awesome. The other thing you don't want to do is untwist the wires. There's 4 pair in there, and you only want to untwist about an inch and a half. The pairs, the way they're twisted is what shields the wires and lets your data transfer. So if you knock that twist out of whack, then your data signal could be a little bit degraded. So yeah, just be careful there. So now I'm putting one little wire holder in place, and this is mainly just so it keeps my Cat 5 out of the way when the door opens and closes. So I plug it in. Now all I need is Cat 5 coming into the controller, or I just use a Cat 5 going out to other controllers. Where my controllers are placed, I usually have 4 or 5 of them together. So this is going to work out well for me. So this is my video. I hope it was informative for you, and thank you so much for watching. And I hope your light show goes off without a hitch, and you guys have a Merry Christmas.